because they
Okay, welcome back. One second.
torturing, killing, and everything. But at the end of the day, yes, some things, knowledge came out of it.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff written about that stuff.
Yeah,
Mike
right.
said one of the textbooks with anatomy is like world famous. You know what I'm talking about? There's one like something with anatomy.
So, religious medicine, I don't want to go too much off that.
Okay,
yeah.
The CIA, OSS, actually set up a publishing company because these ex-Nazi researchers wanted to publish their stuff. It wasn't just medicine, it's also physics and other things. And nobody wanted to touch them with a 10-foot pole. They couldn't get anything published. So they set up their own. So these are OSS, maybe the British, maybe the MI5. They set up a publishing company that would publish their stuff so you could get out there.
Aha.
Yeah. Yeah. So they didn't want to. There was a lot of, but there's a lot of hand wringing about what to do.
Aha. Yeah. Yeah, it's very complicated.
Very complicated.
So how do you separate?
Right.
But it's different because that's science and whatever. But here it's you try to teach the kids. I mean, do you not tell them who this author was? I mean, someday you're going to say, "Daddy, this is a really great book. Who is this guy?"
Right.
Oh, don't ask me. I mean,
Yeah, right. Right.
Interruption.
You don't want to know. You don't want to know, yeah.
Anita, no.
Right.
Do what he says, not what he does.
Yeah, he became like a celebrity, in the entire Haredian, the Lumi world. Like if you got his signature on your book, it's like wow. So the Gemara in Moed Katan and Chagiga, they both say famously on the pasuk in Malachi, where it says, "Ki malach Hashem tzvakot hu, ki Torah yivakshu mipiu, siftei kohen yishmeu da'at, v'Torah yivakshu mipiu, ki malach Hashem tzvakot hu," something of that nature, which means who do we learn Torah from? Or education is like Torah when he speaks about how to educate your children and to live a marital life. All that is within Torah. It's within the aspect. It's not science, like not something technical, physical. It's talking about spiritual. So who do we learn spiritual lessons from? Only Only if your rabbi or the person you're learning Torah from, you're reading his books and learning from, it's to you like an angel. Speaking of angels before, the negative side, on the positive side, if he's like an angel. So it has to be very, very pure person that you accept anything from. Otherwise, it's not a figure, it's not a role model that we should listen to at all, or anything that he does and anything that he says. On the other hand, the Tosfos in Chagiga, the Vav, they ask a very powerful question. By Rabbi Meir, it says that he studied Torah from Acher. Acher was a very corrupt, very he's a denier. Elisha ben Avuya, he denied Hashem, denied Torah, even though he was a very tremendous learner. Right, exactly, even worse. To start off, right. Which again is very similar to this guy who's also Haredi in his lifestyle and yet doing such terrible things. But so the Tosfos asks, how come he studied Torah from him even after he became Acher? Yes, he continued studying. Right, his horse, and he listened to all his Torah on the way. Right, and he told him until it was Yom Kippur. Right, he was riding on a horse on Yom Kippur, and Rameir was following him side by side to listen to his Torah. And Elisha ben Avuya said to Rameir, "You have to stop here because it's Alpayim Amah. We're past the Tchum. I'm continuing, but you stop here because for you it's meaning he was holding totally in the Torah. Yeah, he didn't believe in Hashem. He went into the Pardes. He was one of the 4 sages that went into the hidden parts of Torah, into the Kabbalistic parts, and he was badly affected by it, and he lost his belief. So let's ask, how can Rameir, and then the Gemara explains this. Tocho achal, klipato zarak. Rameir knew how to take the positive sides and throw away the negative.
But that was only later they accepted, right? He was called Acherim, right? Rabbi Meir was expunged from a lot of Mishnahs by name because of the fact that he associated with Mishnah.
Right, so meaning the...
So there's some ambiguity about how to deal with Rabbi Meir. So I guess in the end he won out, right?
No, but the idea, as far as I recall, is that the reason he was as if expelled Rabbi Meir because no one was on his height to be able to take from Acher his positive Torah teachings and throw away the bad. So all the other Talmidei Chachamim weren't on his level to reach that, and therefore his Torah wasn't accepted because he was set on such a high level that he couldn't relate. He couldn't relate to all the rest of the rabbis. Because of that, he's too much. He wasn't able to relate to normal life because he was so high. His level was so high that you can't. It's somewhat similar, a little bit similar to Beit Shammai versus Beit Hillel. Beit Shammai were, they say, smarter than Beit Hillel. You chadim charifim yoter min Beit Hillel. They were more intellectually smarter than Beit Hillel. So why isn't halacha like Beit Shammai? Because Hillel was more relating to the world, to this world, and Shammai less.
And they were also bigger mentions. That's what halacha, at least that's the more movement.
Anavimayu. But on the other hand, it says that in time to come, halacha will be like Beit Shammai because they got to reach the truth more so than Beit Hillel. So there are two sides to every coin. So Tosfos answered their question: how come it says only if it's like a malach Hashem tzvakos, and here he's taking Torah from Acher? Says Tosfos, Talmidei Chachamim Shani. A Talmid Chacham who can differentiate between the good and the bad, he's allowed to learn from even Acher, from even a person so bad like him, so off the derech like him, and take the good versus the bad. So it's somewhat complex. Such a person, he's not worse than Acher, I believe. To be a total disbeliever, yet knowing all the Torah Kula is something very, very extremely bad.
Actually physically hurt people. These people that he physically hurt, he messed up for life.
That's an interesting distinction.
True. True, but
a kid that's raped, a kid that's molested, a girl that's raped, she's messed up for a long,
That's
long
an interesting.
time.
It's actually interesting. Right. He could be an Avarian.
okay,
That
but that
changes.
doesn't make the sin more sinful than to be a kofir. A kofir, moridin bein ma'alin. Torah respects a kofir. We always tend to look at sinful actions in our eyes, according to what we see, according to the effect we feel that has over the world. So we say, okay, a kofir is for himself. It's not just a terrible effect over others. He didn't make people miserable by being a kofir. We don't really know, because to become a kofir on that level could have brought disasters to the world, in like an earthquake, and thousands of people died because of one kofir. We have no idea the behind the scenes how Hashem rules and empowers this world according to our actions. We know that kfira is one of the worst sins possible. So I'm not trying to say to compare this to that to this. I think the same concept comes out. The Tosfos tell us, Chagiga Tetvav, with Aleph, Tosfos say, it depends who you are. Now, I'm not saying that we can be sure of ourselves to be able to take the sift between the good and the bad and take only good from such people. Not saying we're on that level, but it's complex. Now, I do agree totally with all those rabbis and all those actions that were taken against him, because how can we take a chance that his books are still out there and people who don't know how to deal with good and bad with this complex person and take only the good from him and not learn from the bad? So for sure, on a public level, rabbis have to come out and say, get rid of all his books, don't accept it, don't read, don't continue hiring him for anything that he did before and all that. They have to come out and say that, because for the public, for the masses, that's the right way to deal with this. But there's still this exception of who is the one dealing with this person, if there is a possibility to take from him after all or not. Again, it's very, like in Rabbi Meir's generation, only Rabbi Meir was able to take from Acher Torah, no one else could. So here we have no idea who can, but for the masses, for the public, it's definitely the right way to treat him and his books, and unless it's all proven to be wrong. But in the meantime, that's how we should react to this person. Yeah. Right.
Some people say, no, it can't be the same guy. No way he was quoted. He's quoted.
It's probably before he became Acher.
Doesn't matter.
But the rest of us are still.
You don't know that. I mean, you don't know what he.
No, the Mishnah knows that. The Mishnah knows when he changed his views.
That's proof that he was that's his point. That's a proof that Haraya or Yehuda Nasi decided, even after he was Acher, he still wants to put him inside the.
No, but the difference is, that's where Shechter wrote in that article. The difference is, if we would know for sure the moment in his life that he became corrupt, then we can take all his Torah from before. That's totally fine. It's pure Torah.
The question is, we don't know when.
The question is, we don't know when. That's where Shechter wrote in that article. We don't know when this person, this Chaim Valder, became that corrupt person.
That's the question.
That's a difference for sure.
Because we know the age of the girl, the women who have accused him now when they say he.
How do you know how many were before? We have no idea who came out before. How do we know when his mind started thinking in that direction to do that? Maybe for years he thought of that. Right.
No, fair enough.
Right.
Oh, but that's interesting. So that.
No, that's for sure. Why would
if you know there's a time?
Right. Why would that affect retroactively a person who was totally pure before?
Now somebody's saying, who's the originator of the idea? Oh, that's a terrible person. Like it leaves very questionable area for people.
Yeah, but that you can explain to everyone. That's not the fact that after he became that bad person he is, still I can try to get out the good things from him. Here we explain to everyone. This person was excellent, was a good guy beforehand. Nothing wrong with him then. And from that point on, we don't accept anything he says. That's easy to explain, easy to differentiate.
He went into the parties already with a flaw. That's why it's like you can date the date. Okay, the day they started, that's from that point on.
But still, he was. But even that flaw, right? Even that flaw, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi knew when that began in him. And he knew that what he had said there, Halomed Yeled, Domer Niyar Chalak, Halomed Zaken, Domer Niyar Machuk, that saying in Pirkei Avos, he had said when he was completely pure. He had no thoughts of denial yet at that point. That's how they explain why we're able to take from him that.
Lahavdil. I remember we discussed this for Adam for, let's say, a wedding.
Yeah.
It's good sometimes to have young people. Because the line is, they didn't cross, they're young enough that they're still clean. Like that, as you get older, that Abe could have
There's
a problem.
still a chance that maybe he's.
We discussed that. I think that's like halacha l'maisa. Not that you should take a younger person. No, you should take the right person, an old person, and tzaddik and all that. But right. There's some
but
issue.
sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So what if he's been aid to Chassidus, been an aid on documents?
Right, that's a big problem.
What if it's stuff, okay, again, it's unrelated to this area, like aid on a loan document, maybe. But, can never end.
Yeah, right.
From this point forward, that's all we can do.
Right. Yeah, but that I think is an edzomem. That Abai and Rava speak about the mafreya nifsal or mikanu lehaba nifsal. I think it's only edzomem. I believe so. I'm not. I think so. Because only that, you know for sure that he lied. Torah tells you for sure he lied. Any other situation, we don't know for sure. Because if there's a contradiction between two sets of Eidim, then it's safek. We don't know the truth of the matter. The only case where we know for sure that this person lied, only because the Torah tells us to regard it that way, is Ed Zomem. Then he's totally a liar no matter what he says. Yeah. So what Rav Shmuel Eliyahu instructed, Rav Shmuel Eliyahu, he's the son of Rav Mordechai Eliyahu. He's a very, very famous Tzidumi rabbi. He's the main one who's been dealing, he's a very important figure. He's been dealing with such situations, such quote unquote rabbis or educators who committed such crimes. He's been dealing with them one after the other, and he's dealing well. He's taking care of these situations. Now, it's Rabbi Tzfat. Sephardic chief Rabbi Tzfat. Yeah, Mordechai Eliyahu is very, very special. And he is also, he dealt with, I don't even want to mention their names because they're such evil people, but he dealt with so many of these cases. So regarding this case, his instructions now are to take out his books from the shelf, take them off the shelf, and put them in the machsan, in the storage room. Why? Because it says we had to wait to see what the final verdict is. We don't know if it's really true or not. When the final verdict comes out by judges, by the court, then we'll know what to do. If they put them back in the shelf because it's all lies against him, or throw them away.
Collectors.
Why they take back books?
No, I'm saying when someone's publishing them anymore, that's when they're worth money.
Yeah.
People want to read it. People are. You can't buy it anymore.
Yeah, it makes you curious.
People don't think they're like Rav Meir.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
On the same topic, there was an ArtScroll book about my uncle the Nasi. Story?
No, I heard the name of the book, but I never read it. Yeah.
Okay. Make a long story short. They wrote such clear. I'm embarrassed to say it's in the base minutes, but please forgive me. That you read the newspaper every day. Examples like that. There was tremendous pressure that it shouldn't be published.
Wow.
I think it was that book, and there was another book also. Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky's son wrote. There's another book.
His father?
About his father.
Wow.
That was a story, yeah. About his father. I think that's where he's about that. It's not published. You can't get it.
Yeah, okay. That's
so
nonsense. Nonsense from the point of view of the publishers who.
Well, I'm saying that the firm world made so much, the Haredi leadership made so much, they don't want the mass, these books are trade.
Yeah.
They want the publisher house.
But that's that. Yeah. But that's not real. That's all.
All right. So I'm saying making a joke. It'd be worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
Buy one of these books now. It's worth hundreds of dollars.
Are you serious?
You want to get a copy.
Wow.
He just passed away this past year. The son of Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky.
Wow.
He wrote a book about his father. And he was almost put in cherem.
Put him in a band. Wow.
Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky's son is not a.
So.
He wrote things that the Haredi world didn't want to know being public.
That's unfortunate from the other side. Anyhow, it's very mind-boggling. What? How can this be? I don't have an answer. I'm just throwing this out. But this has nothing to do with. I think we can't learn much from this question. How can it really be that a person seems so righteous, seems so devoted? I mean, he was really, really devoted to thousands of cases, complicated cases, and helped people out. Seemed like really there was something real in him that cared for people. And he wrote all these books that kids and adults growing up on. And yet, at the same moment, indoors, he's acting in such a way. It's hard to fathom how a person can be like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Amash that. If he would have been a nothing and not an unsuccessful person that doesn't do much in his life, and he fools around with women, that we can understand. There's nothing else to do. He's bored, so he does that. The Mishnah says that. But here, such an accomplished person, special person, in these areas exactly of caring for others and teaching how to live a loyal life. That's what he's teaching. He was preaching to people to live a loyal life. And here, behind his wife's back and behind everyone's back, he does these things.
Doctors who treated, there was a doctor who treated a gymnast, an American gymnast.
Yeah.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of girls.
Wow.
If you think about it, it's really the other side of the coin. If you think about it, I mean, anybody who is involved with people in these kind of matters, he has a certain kind of sensitivity.
Right.
Because obviously he's affected. But on the other hand, he's constantly exposed to people who are vulnerable and attractive and mixed up. So
he takes advantage of his of his authority over them. Yeah. Yeah, but I'm trying to show, again, the doctor deals with, like Danny's point from beforehand. It's like more scientific versus psychological soul issues. Here, it's exactly his.
Somebody comes to you about you're their physician and they trust you.
Right.
They follow your instructions. And if you take that advantage, it's almost the same.
No, but you thought that dealing with these issues and the halachic behind them, spiritual,
right. That's what I mean. A doctor is not necessarily moral.
Because it's a
scientific thing.
It's a secular thing.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah. But here he's dealing with moral issues.
But you're saying he's on the point of this issue, and so to the top, to the ra, it's
right. Yeah. I mean, when you see all the time with therapists, psychologists, rabbis, they deal with vulnerable people.
I agree. But the point of taking advantage of them against what you're trying to educate everyone else. Oh, that's exactly the point where I'm getting to. He really isn't. If he puts on tefillin every day, daven seriously, everything, and he teaches what the Torah's perspective is about all this this world. It's specific. Yeah, I agree. I'm just asking, how does it come to be that a person is so corrupt?
Keep asking, it's better.
Yeah.
We all should keep asking.
We should be tamim. It means we tamim, innocent,
like
as innocent
right.
as we. Right. It breaks another innocent way looking at this world. And it's
beyond the people who clearly may have affected. There's all those other people who are now saying, "How can I trust?"
Right.
Anybody.
Exactly.
That's the real issue. The real damage.
I think that's one of the most serious damages because it's Chilul Hashem in a way that how can we trust rabbis or educators?
The guy who was the head of NCSY.
Yeah.
Wow.
NCSY.
I know him, and I know
also.
I was in school when he was a Rebbe.
Wow.
Arts also has a women's siddur and one of the rabbis. There's all kinds of works.
Wow.
I mean, we're not bragging about this.
It's terrible.
Like
Yeah. Terrible.
And especially in the Haredi world, we're very concentrated.
Right. Holiness. Yeah.
Tremendous Talmud Chacham that writes for our school. Area Shul back in that area Shul circle. There were rumors and stories about him for years and years.
Wow.
He's a tremendous.
And he's still writing. He's still.
Women's
one of the same guy.
Yeah.
But it's still. He's still.
No one can say it's a tremendous Talmud Chacham.
Wow.
Really.
Yeah, it's just mind-boggling how a person can be so fake and so.
At the end of time, everybody's going to be crying.
Yeah, right.
I can't believe this tiny little.
It's a horror. Made me fall and stumble. Right. It's a horror. How did I overcome it? Right.
There's no answer to your question, and we should all have that question forever and ever. That's the best.
Right.
But when you learn Sefer Breshit and you see the Chumash and Rashi, and obviously there's more, the stories in there, like these are our avot and imahot that, switching of this and that, and
Yudaim Tamar coming up next week. Next March.
Abraham, his chesed led to him, being friendly. There's that part. There's switching the beds with there's all that. There's a lot going on there, and it's these are the ultimate.
Yeah, right.
Maybe we should learn it. We're not on the level to learn it.
Yeah, but the way Chazal explained those situations are only on a very high level of who they were, not talking about actual sins that they committed, like this guy or like other guys that were caught.
But
right.
But you can see you can see how the mind.
The tests are very difficult, right? We should never be tested, really. That's the truth. We should never be tested.
One of us is tested every day in the issue of sexuality.
Right.
You walk down a who's.
Yeah, but it's not close to that extent that we're talking about.
What I'm saying is, in other words,
what are you talking about?
This is the challenge of our generation.
Sure.
Right? This is a challenge of our generation.
Yeah, but to get to such a low, I mean, you're talking about challenges that we all have, but we're able to overcome. We don't
talking
We
about
want,
sitting
we
on a
want
park
that
bench
McDonald's
looking
too.
at a
You don't
good-looking
stop for a
girl.
cheeseburger.
This man raped a 12-year-old allegedly.
Yeah. Yeah, and many, many times. She spoke about tens of times.
I think most people would agree with me. You can't control your Sahara.
Yeah.
You have to control it, but if you can't, in today's day and age, you can't control it. If you just pay, it's no mitzvah obviously to pay for it, but as Tosfot says, you dress in black, you pay for it, you do what you have to do. But to hurt these people and to ruin these girls' lives, that's what makes him a terrible Russia. In my opinion.
Yeah.
He couldn't control himself. And I found out that he was going to a prostitute. Obviously, he's not a big tzaddik. I'm not going to go for him for brachas.
Yeah.
There's no comparison. Man that goes to prostitutes to get his needs filled, whatever his needs are, taking advantage and hurting these young girls. I mean, it's day and night. It's day and night.
Of course. Of course.
And that's a terrible thing about it.
Of course. Yeah. No, there's nothing.
It's as the doctor said, they're taking advantage of them sexually. Just the actual act itself.
No, sure. I'm not saying. I'm not trying to belittle what he did. And the opposite. Since it's so terrible, how can you fathom that and all that he did positively in his life? It's a stira. It's a contradiction. It's mind-boggling. And the other thing that I'm always questioning myself is all these men that we find recently and that have been involved in such things, their wives, as far as I'm aware of, their wives never separated.
Wait,
which means what?
They know about it?
I don't know. I don't know what they did know or not. But even after they're told and they're proven to have done these things, they don't divorce.
There was a story of a Rav who
not, it's again, I don't want to mention the names, but it's fat guy and this crazy.
there was a very important Rav in the States who was accused, and his Chavrusa, who was also a very important Rav, said,
"Yeah,
I can't believe that this man that I sat opposite for 35 years did it.
Yeah,
it can't be.
Yeah,
but it is.
Yeah, right.
And is it like his head just
like you're bursting when it is.
The other thing
so when you get to the epiphany that it is, how does his wife continue living with you?
But to me, that's even more concerning. These are the cases we're finding out about.
Right.
Often when you do surveys like this, you find out that there's a minority behind that you never hear about. So what could be going on with these people who are? And that's what I'm saying. That's the doubt that turns into all.
Right. That's very scary.
Our Haredi families not going to want male therapists treating their daughters now because chas v'shalom, even somebody who seems like a tzaddik, who is a tzaddik.
Yeah. Many times it could be a chiloni who's much more tzaddik than this guy because he has morals.
And there are plenty of stories with male therapists messing up.
No, I know. The level of schmutz never ends.
Yeah, right. You're right. It's very difficult. So, anyways, getting back to the parsha related to all this, Yaakov Avinu had the strength in him to defeat his Yetzer Hara in a way that he was kept solid, strong, good, pure, and defeated this Sarosh Aleis, this Yetzer Hara within him. And then he became Israel. Then he became that person that's all the ways pure and totally
we're
strong.
Bnei Israel.
Right.
But when we refer to Yaakov, we refer to him as Yaakov. We don't refer to Abraham became Abraham. So Sarah, how come we don't use Israel?
Yeah. So it's because the Torah itself uses the name Yaakov many times after he was renamed Israel. And the reason is because Avram versus Avraham completely was cancelled because Avram is Aram, the leader of Aram, where he came from, and Avraham is Av Hamon Goyim. Now became the leader of the world, universal. Whereas Yaakov and Israel never flipped totally. Within his own personal life, yes, he became Israel. He became that person that's all the way up there, strong as possible. But for Am Israel, for us Jews, we're always between Yaakov and Israel. Yaakov is the name that represents difficulties, challenges, having to overcome, and depression and killings of the Jewish people. That's Yaakov. We're in trouble. And when it's going well for us, we're Israel. So it's a name that's always flipping around in history, in the course of history. We haven't yet become total Israel. We will be, B'ezrat Hashem, but right now we're still in this confrontation, both personally and on a national scale. We're always confronted and we're always dealing with difficulties and problems.
Both aspects are still present.
Exactly. Right. Okay, shkoach. Okay, let's do a little bit of halacha now. What can you do? Sometimes these topics are overwhelming. So. Okay. So we're in this chapter of Chashmal b'Shabbat, of electricity on Shabbos. We did last week the idea of a shortage in the house where everything's pitch black, and how do we use a goy? In what way can we ask him to do things? By just telling him a story and not by commanding. Even by hinting by command is not good. You have to hint by a story. It's too dark in here. Or if it were a weekday, I would have done this and that. We said even that's considered a story, even though you tell him exactly what to do. Or you're saying it about yourself. Had it been a weekday, I would have done so and so. And then we said that when everything gets turned on, so it depends. We can't even benefit from something that we had told him correctly. Nothing to do between hana'ah and amira le'akum. Even if the amira, if the saying, instructing to him was done properly, if the consequences of that hint was that we now benefit from what he did, we can't benefit from what he did. He did it for a Jew. So what's the solution for that? We said try to do a psik reisha situation. How is that? That if, let's say, in one of the rooms, it's not pitch black because there's some light coming from the outside, or there's a small light that's still on in that room, and you could do some things in the room without having to turn all electricity back on. So if you tell him about that specific room, it's a little dark in here, that specific room. And in order to turn that light on, you need to turn out to raise the fuse for the whole house. But his intention is for that room because you directed him for your needs or for that room to have more light in. So that room you can benefit from because it's called Tosefet Torah. The moment there is some light in the room, if a guy adds more light, you can benefit from it because it's not from pitch black to light. Not totally a benefit. You could have done most of the stuff in that room without him turning on the light. He had some light coming in. And then the rest of the house, the fact that all electricity came back, and then your plata is working, and your fridge is working, and your lights are working everywhere, all that is psik reisha, because he turned it on for the intent of helping you out in that specific room. Or, for example, you have like we said, a young child up to the age of 3, some say up to the age of 6, some say up to the age of 9, that is considered cholesh she'ein bo sakana automatically. Any of their needs, they consider cholesh she'ein bo sakana, which allows you to ask a goy to do malacha for a cholesh she'ein bo sakana. That's even correct. For cholesh she'ein bo sakana, you can ask specifically. That's shin kaf chet seif yud zayin 328 letter seif 17. There the Shulchan Aruch says that for cholesh she'ein bo sakana, you can ask directly the goy to do whatever you need for that. You can to help that situation. Yes, because for you, it's always going to be a derabanan because you're not doing it. The instructing a goy to do something is only rabbinically forbidden on us, even if he's doing it malacha right. Yeah, you don't need to get to double derabanan to help a cholesh she'ein bo sakana. Right.
Despite the fact you can do it, it's just because it's better that it be done. In other words,
No, you can't. You can't. We're not talking about a case you cannot do it on your own. No, definitely not. The right for sure not, but even rabbinic prohibition, we shouldn't. Unless you do a trade rabbanon, then yes. Trade rabbanon you can do for a cholesh she'ein sakana. The Mishnah Berurah quotes a Chayei Adam that says that there's no way to get to Goy, and you can't do it b'shinui or whatever, you can't do a trade rabbanon. Then we allow even a rabbinic prohibition on a Jew, for a Jew to transgress for cholesh she'ein sakana. You can. Why can he take medicine? The answer is because Chazal weren't goes there specifically. The Gzeira of Shchikat Samanim, they didn't apply it on cholesh she'ein sakana. They did an exception to their rule on that specific Gzeira, right? But it's not like doing a rabbinic prohibition of cutting off a fruit from the tree, b'shinui, in order to eat from cholesh she'ein sakana. That they didn't make an exception to that rule because the rule was a set rule for all people alike, that you mustn't pick a fruit from a tree b'shinui, rabbinically forbidden. Gzeira, you may do it without a shinui. So that's not a... What's that? No, for headache not. Because that's... What's the definition of... Good question. How do we define cholesh she'ein sakana? It's a case, for adults, right?
No. Kids,
right. Kids is automatically 3, 6, 9. Going to different poskim. Rosh Hashanah says only up to 3. I believe it's Rav Ovadia who says up to 6, and the Tzitz Eliezer even or Letzion says up to 9. Different poskim. But if it's an adult or about those ages, we define it the following: 2 definitions. Either nafale mishkav, and it's a person who must lay down. He's so weak. He's so much in pain and agony. He has to lay down. He can't walk around. That's sufficient. But he's not endangering at all. If there's even a suffix sakana, even some doubt that it may be a dangerous situation, life and death situation, you do everything and anything to save his life, to help him, even at the right level, even by a Jew, even without shinui, if it's not possible. Ramah says that you should do b'shinui if it's possible, if it doesn't delay your treatment. But Shulchan Aruch even says then not. You don't do b'shinui at all. You do it normally. B'gdolei Yisrael. Save a person's life. You don't take any chances. According to the Shulchan Aruch. According to the Ramah, also you don't take any chances. But if you can do it the same swiftness and get it done efficiency with shinui or with a goy or with a katan, and do it that way. Anyhow, so that's cholesh she'yesh bo sakana. Cholesh she'ein bo sakana is when they've either have to lie down in bed because they can't move because of their situation, or tsar kol gufo. They feel pain in their entire body. The pain reflects on their whole body, even if they can walk around. It doesn't make them lie down, but they feel pain in their entire body. Those are 2 cases of cholesh she'ein bo sakana. That's how we define it. So a headache depends. If it's a migraine headache, then you're right. That's cholesh she'ein bo sakana. They're going to be lying down. They're out. But if it's a normal headache, which we just need an akamol for, and then we're all done, we can't take that on Shabbat. That's the case where that's called michush be'alma. That level of sickness, of not feeling well, is called michush be'alma. And that's exactly the case where we cannot treat ourselves with medicine. That's where Chazal apply their gzeira, their decree, not to use medicine on Shabbat. And even though in our days, the reason behind the decree has nothing to do with our days, because grinding, Shema Yishchak Samanim is not done by anyone. No one makes their own medicine today, so we wouldn't grind anything. There are some people who make these verbal, right? Right, it's tzimchi, right, where they make their own home natural medicine. That's rare.
You would never make zero based upon 0.001.
Right. That's what I said. It's very rare. So you don't make zera. Chazal don't imply something that's midi de lo shchiach, lo gazur banan. This is definitely not shchiach. It's definitely not frequent. So in our days, it really wouldn't shouldn't apply bichlal the issue of taking medicine, because what are we afraid of? Nothing is going to happen from taking medicine, and it's going to help us to go through Shabbos much more pleasantly. Only Shabbos, definitely in favor of taking medicine, but we can't change Gzera. Zal made Gzera, we don't change it. Even if batel tam, lo batel din. Even if the reasoning behind the Gzera no longer applies.
Not all the Rishonim feel that.
Right, but that's final halacha. That's what the Shulchan Aruch definitely paskins by. The Ramah once in a while follows the Tosfos, who many times in Shas don't feel that way, and they hold that if the reasoning behind the Gzera no longer exists, no longer is relevant, then we cancel the Gzera. That's how Tosfos hold many times in Shas. The Ramah once in a while quotes that opinion, but not by medicine. Medicine, we don't find anyone disagreeing with the Shulchan Aruch. We mustn't take medicine, but that's in a Mechush Be'alma situation. It's just some.
Was written, they were still grinding.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
Of course.
You think so? Yeah.
Years ago? Of course.
It was all done by at home.
RX
Yeah.
recipe. You send it to the pharmacist, and that was the recipe for a little bit of this plant, a little bit of that. People were
Uh-huh.
I don't think that was happening.
Yeah.
Can you go with the Arctic pharmacists?
Yes.
They were compound
But it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter because the Shulchan Aruch definitely backs the opinion of the Rambam, who holds Batel Batel Adin. It doesn't matter of what decree we're talking about. It's his rule. It's a general rule that any decree that Chazal established, we don't change. That's Rambam, pure Rambam. And Mamrin Bet.
Taking a medicinal tea that's just a tea that happens to be, you drink this kind of tea, it's got ginger, it's good for your sore throat. That's okay because it's standard tea.
That's okay, but not
if you take
not always.
medicine.
It depends. It depends on two things. Firstly, if you have a hurting throat, sore throat, and you're taking it as a medicine to help you, then it already becomes problematic. But even more so when it's not done normally. If you just drink a normal tea, that's called ma'achal b'riim. Ma'achal b'riim you can take. That you can drink tea normally. But if you're adding to the tea something that people would only add if they have a sore throat, then you cannot drink that tea. If you have a sore throat. If you don't have a sore throat and you're adding that just to prevent something from becoming sick, then you're allowed.
Like we have a box of ginger tea, so that's okay because it's a regular tea.
Exactly.
In the tea bag or whatever.
Exactly. That's fine.
Just a question.
Yeah.
Making something feel better isn't medicine either. It's like saying I'm in the hot sun. I'm going to the shade to be cool. Like it's not medicinal.
Right. That's not medicinal, but
drinking to lower a sore throat. It's maybe the doctors would tell me it's not fixing something. So I'm asking, like there's a little bit of a line there because you're not. Medicine is medicine. I tell my kids sometimes this will make you feel better.
Many times medicine, right? Medicine doesn't take care of the problem. The symptoms go away.
Well, I look at medicine
In most medicine, right?
Okay.
In most
That's
medicine.
that's a deep philosophical.
Yeah.
So
Most medicines, that's what they do. Yeah. Same category.
Yeah, if somebody had a little bit of pain, they gave them alcohol to solve the problem.
Right.
That one, right? No, I'm thinking of the honey for sore throat. Like, yeah.
But it's the same idea.
That's already a pill. That's why I think of it. The honey of a tea, like.
But it's the same idea. It solves the symptoms of the problem.
But like you could put drops of arnica in tea. Arnica is supposed to work against bruising. It's whether you believe in natural medicine or not. It's a medicine, so you're saying you can't.
Right.
You can't just
You can't
take
do that
advantage.
because that's
I'm
not
drinking a tea and put a couple of drops.
right.
It's only reason. Right? If you think that rose hips makes your tea more medicinal, it shouldn't be a problem because there are people that like the drinks.
Right. The moment it's ma'achal b'riim, the people do it.
Oh, it doesn't.
Anyway. Yeah. No.
No. I see. Okay.
Right. Right. Then it's fine.
Cinnamon coffee is good.
Yeah. In coffee? Yeah.
No,
Cinnamon and coffee?
You should know there's
10,000
good things about coffee.
Right.
That's not even what I meant. I just saw a recent article
All of
talking
them are
about
good.
adding a little bit of
Cinnamon
cinnamon
in your coffee?
does
Wow,
help.
never
I
heard
forgot
of
what the reasons were, metabolism or something.
Uh-huh.
Don't remember, but
That's
anyway.
this week, and then next week coffee's bad.
Yeah. Cinnamon is always healthy to add, but I never heard to call.
Sometimes anything.
Right.
What's the common example of when you have a young child and you need a goy to malacha? In other words, what would be a classic example of that?
For cholesh she'ein bo sakana, to consider him as a cholesh sakana.
No, I mean what? No, yeah. So
Yeah, like using a goy for a child.
Baby has a rash.
Yes.
And you know whatever squeezing is, whatever the malacha is, squeezing the ointment.
Yeah, it's not squeezing, it's memareach. It's the spreading.
That's
the problem.
The
Correct. For a Jew. But you can ask a goy to do that for that kid. Exactly. Or the lights. Lights a shortage. And now I can't diaper the kid. Or it's difficult to diaper the kid in the dark. I call a goy and I say, please turn on the light. Directly. Because it's for a cholesh she'ein bo sakana. And you need to prepare a bottle. You need boiling water to prepare a bottle for the kid or whatever, all these needs. You ask a goy directly. That doesn't need even sipur v'im be'alma.
But you can't use that boiled kettle up to make yourself a drink.
That's a good question. That is discussed by a cholesh sheyesh bo sakana. When you do something for a person, even yourself, or I think the answer, what the halacha says is like this. Anything that is done in a way that you can't add to the malacha if you would need it for yourself. It's just ner lechad, ner lemea, meaning if you turn on the light, it's the same light for use of the cholesh she'ein bo sakana situation that is in danger. You yourself turned on the light to treat him. The same light that you would also been able to use for yourself or not, meaning there's no additional malacha for benefiting on your own from that same light. So that you can benefit from. But if it's something that you want to benefit after you had done it for the cholesh she'ein bo sakana, and had you known in advance, or let's say it was a weekday, you would have added some more stuff to that. Let's say you're preparing food. Hot water, right. So you need a certain amount. Exactly. And even if you didn't throw some more water in, there's a chashash that you may, it's like in Hebrew we say, lakachat trempal. You're taking a ride, taking advantage of the situation. You're adding some more water for yourself because it's already being boiled. Let's have some hot tea for myself as well. So for that since that might happen, Chazal said you benefit from what you did for the cholesh she'ein bo sakana, even though you didn't add any extra water. But then it was some leftover soup you prepared for the cholesh she'ein bo sakana person. There's some leftovers. You can't eat them. Motzei Shabbat, of course, you can. But even though there was no malacha done, that's the chiddush in this case. There was no malacha done here. It was totally permissible to prepare that soup or heat up that water for the cholesh she'ein bo sakana, because you're allowed to violate Shabbat. But since you may add, if you're allowed to benefit from it, you may add some for yourself. So Chazal said not to benefit.
So the Rav is saying is, if you have a blackout Friday night,
yes,
you do the kosher way. You do the kosher way of getting the main switch box, the power back on.
Yes.
And now your hot water or cold water. I can't have coffee shop this morning.
No, because we said it's secret, you can.
Right. That's what I said now. Exactly.
That's okay. If you told me I want you because I want this urn to come on, right. Then you can.
So then can you read in the room? So then can you read in the room that the baby was in?
Right. Yes, because reading in the room is you can't add more to the malacha.
Malacha is done. It's done. There's nothing more to add to it.
Exactly.
It's done. You're there now. You can read whatever was done.
Right. The light can't be a better light if you would be there, or your baby needs diapering. It's the same light, the same action, right? So that's
what
what
I read in the room. You can't say to your wife, put the baby in there.
You can.
So I can say to my wife, I want to sit with my dad and read. Lights are off.
Right.
That room, lights off.
You can bring the baby in and now say to the guy.
Here needs a diaper, and I gotta call the boy next
to the guy. Exactly. Yeah. You can do that even. Holly just.
One of those two is true.
Because don't forget, after all, it's just the guy doing a malacha for us, which is rabbinic. So we can be more lenient about it and play the game. In the game.
I like that.
Yeah. It's a good game. I'll just finish off by. Right. I'll just finish off by repeating what Harley asked, and it's a good point also. If, let's say, you want to read in your den and there's no light there, can you bring in a baby into that room and then call a guy and say, I need to diaper the baby in that room? So the answer is yes, you can, yes. Because after all, it's the guy doing the malacha. After all, it's only Amir Laku, which is, by the way, the most lenient rabbinic prohibition because it's lav she'en bo ma'aseh, meaning you're not doing anything. It's not even bishinui, where you're doing the action, but bishinui. Here, you're just speaking to the guy, and he's doing everything for you. What's that?
Dibur is not a ma'aseh.
Dibur is not as much as a ma'aseh as his actions. So just talking is something most lenient. And now that he's doing it for the necessity of diapering the kid, after all, because now the baby's in that room. So we allow that. Yes, we allow that. That's a good trick to use.
Let's say normally we say traveling in a hotel with an electronic door. So you can't ask a boy to swipe the card to get you through.
Right.
But you're traveling with your baby.
Aha.
You're away for Shabbat. You get your baby with you. So if I take the baby to shul with me, then I'll have to come back and get to the baby, get the baby back in the room.
Right.
So can I do that?
True. Yes, that's a good point.
But
you have to tell the guy.
But
But you have to tell the guy specifically when asking to swipe the card, I need a baby inside because I need to diaper them inside, or I need them to sleep in their bed or whatever. Right? And you say specifically for the baby.
By that one particular rub.
No. And he's no longer alive, so he can't really be a student anymore. So, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, very soon. Okay, Shkoch. So we'll stop here. Shavua Tov. Yeah. Shalom, B'saros Tovos. Okay, take care. Everyone on Zoom. Shavua Tov. Bye-bye.